Hello and welcome to the first of a few Let's Plays we will be doing from the new Cherry Hills map by Stevie. We are here on the farm. I have had this save set up with some things how I like. We are starting off with 350,000 and we also have my kind of favorite set of starting equipment, so we can get things kicked off. As we go along I may add new equipment, but essentially we kept the default Voltra. The task that was tasked with it's kind of just right. We've got some Massey Fergusons, we have some Challenger 900s, we've got a case there, and we should have kept the forager and the the wheel loader. We've kept the seeder because it just happens to be my favorite, and I've actually got another one. We've kept the other seeder as well. We've added a manure wagon, and we have added some other stuff. So we've added a couple of Challenger MT800s. These are a mod because I like them in black. I've also added the Krone GTX M Big M mower because I like this mower. We have got a whole bunch of Sutcliffe trucks because that's my preferred truck type. We do have an auto-loading Fiegel trailer. We've added the Terra Variant 600 Eco because I use this one for cultivation with slurry. We also have added a modded version of the Tiger 10 LT. This one plows and cultivates at the same time because quite frankly I don't like the mess that a normal plow makes. So this is that one. We have some of our oversized trailers. We also have the Coat Universal Pack mobile storage tanks. These are used for water and other liquids. It's kind of my preferred tank. We have our oversized big body 900 trailers. These are used for the harvesting. We've also got a Krone TX 430 Roam. This is a modded version which has a larger capacity auger. We also have the Krone ZX 450. This is also a modded version with large capacity. Both of these were actually by other people. I didn't mod these. However, the oversized one is one of mine. We've got a couple of these S-tippers, the MAN S-tippers. We have one of the A-frame MAN trucks with the flatbed trailer, and then we have this set here. These are our combines. These are modded. These are modded with a couple of things. So these have higher speed, higher working speed, and they also have a large capacity as well. We also have the kind of the appropriate footer for those. We do have a standard header, footer header. These have a modified header. We also have a standard header for corn and sunflowers. We have this Nadal R90 telescopic wind rower, which is pretty cool. I like this. It's a really good way of cleaning up a field. We also have some modded Scorpion Kings. I like these because these controls are slightly different, but also they take they've got a variable cut size up to 15 meters, and they're also dyeable, so these are done in black. We have this thing here. This is SW100. This is a modded version of a cultivator to use with the Homer. So basically this is a little bit wider and makes life a little bit easier. And we've just added some mammoth trees to the map as well, to kind of they're randomly dotted around just to give some fun when logging. Let's see, got a bunch of those. We have added a couple of these Scania agro tracks. They're in a couple of locations. One is up for forestry, one is set up for around the farm. We've got a couple of these variable weights from SOB modding, and we've also got an auto loading timber trailer. The server is set up to allow people to come on. It's got separate accounts, so if you earn some money, you could potentially buy stuff with it. You can also we're allowing to use helpers. That's fine. Depending on, I'm actually allowing helpers to be used to buy stuff whilst I'm on the server, but I may turn it off when I'm not. The intention is basically as things are up and running and start producing, the helpers, for instance, will suck things like manure and slurry from the animals. So here is the farm. We've concentrated most of the equipment around the main Jones's farm. The server does have vehicle group switcher installed, and I work on this principle that we have essentially one vehicle for a task. I don't get more equipment than I have vehicles, partly because I'm kind of lazy that way. So each of the vehicles I have is assigned a particular task, and they are filed accordingly underneath here. I've labeled the various groups. There are a couple of free groups at the moment. Group 1 is typically personal vehicles and the like, which I add to the map. At some point we will be adding things like a Land Rover and a pickup truck. I don't currently have one of those. I should have actually added that, and I might have to spend that money out of this 300,000. We also have things like, the forestry is all sort of grouped around forestry, and the harvesters are all harvesters, and harvest transport is essentially all the Challenge 900s. We generally will not use the sort of, for the harvest transport vehicles, I don't like using double-wheeled vehicles because they can't slip up behind a combine easily, especially with the big header. They tend to sort of hit the wheels. These 900s are, I think, the most powerful tractor there is at the moment on here, and as a result it can pull a full 200,000 litre trailer, albeit slowly and at times. The seeding tractors will be, for this map, Massey Ferguson 8700s. They're a little bit overpowered, but I like to kind of choose a type of tractor for a particular job. We're using the Case IH Magnums CVXs for fertilizer that are not being done by so essentially if I'm pulling a fertilizer trailer, then the Case will be used, or a manure trailer, the Case will be used. If we're doing slurry, we'll always use the Holmer Terra Variant 600 because we've got the tanker, we've got the cultivator, and we do it all in one. So chop straw is enabled on this map. So one of the things I will be doing when I am basically harvesting is I kind of operate a very straightforward principle when it comes to fertilizer. This map has fertilization required and ploughing, and it's set at 3 levels of fertilization, and it's set at periodic ploughing. So the principle I operate here is fairly straightforward. When we have chop straw enabled, essentially, first, unless we are specifically collecting straw on the map, we will essentially use chop straw first to put down a layer of fertilization, as it were. We will then manure the field if required, and that is typically if we're ploughing, and then we plough or cultivate. If we are not requiring ploughing, we essentially use chopped straw, and then we use the slurry enabled vehicle, i.e. the Holmer, to cultivate the field. And that basically gives us 2 layers of fertilization before we even seed. All the seeders I will use on this map are seeders that can fertilize. So in effect, by the time you've seeded, you've actually got all your layers of fertilization done. That is the kind of the first process element that I will be doing on this map and principle. This is a multiplayer map and on a multiplayer server. So ideally, I prefer if people operate that route. There is a sprayer, but it's a small sprayer, and I don't intend to buy a big sprayer. Also, I generally speaking don't buy tractors with thin tires. Crop destruction is turned on this map, so bear this in mind. I have crop destruction turned on, and I essentially front load my fertilization before essentially I get to growth stage 1. It's seeded, and then basically it's ready to harvest. The other thing that I do, there is no baling on this map. It is a multiplayer server, and there are issues with baling on multiplayer, and as such I will not be doing any baling on the map. So when it comes to collecting straw or grass or whatever, in effect we will use the loading trailer. So the loading trailer is and I will just kind of highlight the trailers. Maybe the loading trailer is this ZX450. Now the ZX450 is attached currently to I think it's attached to a Massey Ferguson. However, it doesn't have a permanent vehicle attached to it. So at the moment, this setup is the Massey Ferguson, the current trailer, and the Nadal. Now this setup is like this because the Nadal's used so you can kind of speed up collection of straw, because if you set things up right, and when you're on a field, you can get 2 lines of straw from one into one if you kind of get behind a combine, and you can pick that up. It kind of eases the task a little bit. So at the moment we've kind of centered ourselves down here. We've kept the default fields, so I haven't added any fields. I want to essentially earn the money to get new fields. So we have these 3 fields here. I intend to keep 19 as grass only. It's too small to use for anything else, but it's kind of a perfect size for grass, and it's got this nice little flowy area down here. 1 and 3 will be used for crop until we've got enough money to buy either 2 or 10 will be the first 2 fields, maybe 4, I don't know. So the other thing we have set up is we have the logging camp up here, kind of good to go. What I have set up here is essentially we have the Voltra N series, which has been set up to kind of be used for stump grinding. That's fine, that's kind of left here. We have this wheel loader set up to do logs, and we have a Scorpion King up here. We have the Fiegel auto-loading logging trailer. So that's kind of set up here, and one of the first things I will do on this map is get these up and running so they're making income. That's the only kind of off-farm activity currently set up. I will be running the BGAs. I have to kind of plan out how I'm going to run that, because I haven't decided which one to run. I actually think I will be running this BGA up here. So this is kind of set up, you know, to basically process from compost and so on. So what I will probably do is when I run the BGAs, I will actually be running them from compost as opposed to anything else. The compost will probably be run from wood chip and straw initially, to get things up and running. And obviously once they're up and running, the diesel and everything else will come from there to power them. This guy here, the kind of manure separator, the slurry separator, effectively what we'll be doing with this is we're setting this up as well to produce solid manure, and that will go, once that's up and running in sufficient volume, alongside that running flat out, we'll be feeding the greenhouses. This guy here, the digestate separator, again, once we've got enough digestate going, we'll be using this to produce fertilizer, both solid and liquid, and we'll also be using it to purified as diesel. We will basically get these guys up and running as soon as we can. We need to get these running with manure and compost in volume. So once we've got the compost masters running and manure from the animals or from the separator, these guys will be running. We will also probably get this second site for the lumberyard running. I'm not sure at what point, but this one is actually quite important because this actually has the wood chipper on it. So this is actually kind of important to get running for the compost masters long term, because we need to feed this a lot of wood to get the level of wood chip required to actually be able to support the compost masters going forward. Let's see. So at the moment, milk sale, we don't have any animals set up. I haven't actually done that. I was thinking of whether or not I want to actually do that from the outset, but I actually decided that I will do a let's play on getting the animals set up, and then I will kind of look to boost the numbers from there. And I think that's, for the moment, is kind of a good starting point. This is episode 0 and the kind of ground rules of how we'll be sort of playing this map. This, as I say, I've done a separate little video which kind of just runs through how to connect to the server for the multiplayer. This is, as I say, a multiplayer server and the map is there, so there's no course play on here. However, I do have a few sort of mods for helping out installed. So Follow Me is installed. The AI vehicle extension is installed. So this guy is installed, so that's to help out, especially because you know, initially this is going to just be one player on here. So I kind of need some help. I potentially may remove some of these mods as things go on. As we get more people on the server, certain mods will probably disappear. Follow Me is on though. AI vehicle extension is on. They're kind of there to help out whilst this server is small. We also have drive control. This is a modified version of drive control because I kind of fixed a little thing in it where it was essentially multiplayer server config was always the default, and if you don't have access to the multiplayer server to upload a new config, you have certain things turned on which do not work so well. That I don't like, such as the kind of the vary gear and the kind of slow start as well. Certain vehicles it doesn't work very well with, so those are kind of disabled on this to kind of prevent issues. We have better fuel installed. We don't have the seasons mod, but we have the seasons display mod installed just for visuals. It's kind of not a seasons control, but we do have the growth control mod installed. And the growth control mod does one thing. Essentially, it stops the growth happening until midnight on each day. So at midnight, growth happens. All the stages of growth up until they're kind of being stacked up over the course of a game day are played out. So it's essentially providing a little bit more uniform kind of growth happening and predictability. So in effect, this field here, when it switches from growth level, it does it at midnight. So if we seed this today at 7 AM in game, this will not grow until midnight, and at which point it may jump 2 stages in the growing. So that is something to bear in mind. I run the server in real time. And I don't generally fast forward time. I let it play out. Now, initially, when we've just got these 3 fields, it's going to be kind of painful. However, I suspect the initial 3 fields, there's going to be some jobs to do to get things up and running. And I kind of use it real time. That I may fast forward time initially. That way, we can kind of sort of have a couple of days of harvesting off the bat. So, the initial principle is real time, unless really necessary. Once we get more than these 3 fields up and running, crops and choice will generally be okay for choice. The principal idea is I don't mind. Essentially, I do stockpile stuff. I want to get things like the animals up and running, and they're going to need a lot of resources. And one of the things I will essentially at some point have is a lot of cows. So I will be kind of aiming to have a minimum of 800 cows on this, getting them up to that point. That's kind of a goal. The sheep and the pigs won't necessarily be as much. We will probably have about 200 sheep, and start off with maybe 100 pigs. Pigs, generally speaking, they just kind of they're sold as their revenue stream. That's why they have their high reproduction rate. The amount of work and effort to maintain sheep outweighs quite often the benefits of sale. So it does take a lot of work. So the 2 animal types we'll probably concentrate first on are the sheep and the cows. At the moment, we will concentrate around this southern farm, Jones's farm. At some point, I may spin up Texas farm here to deal with these fields at the top. What will probably happen is there'll be a division of fields when we kind of get to sufficient size and money to warrant, you know, 2 farms. In effect, what will happen is this farm will take care of these fields, this farm will take care of these fields, and potentially we'll split these down the middle to say 3 each. With that, this is kind of episode 0 for Let's Play on Cherry Hills. So there will be a few of these over time. So probably the first couple, one will be around logging, getting some money up. We'll also get these fields prepared. We will probably do essentially one around harvesting this field 1 that's basically seeded for us, and we also have to prepare field 3 ready for use, and also some mowing. So essentially those 3 things will be kind of the initial set of or 4 things, sorry, will be the initial set of recorded Let's Plays or live streams. So I do live stream some of these, so that's pretty much the plan. Okay, thank you very much for watching. If you would like to follow the series, please hit the subscribe button, and obviously if you like a video, like the video. Thank you very much, and goodbye.